Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Look, no skit today. We just need to get into this. I can't believe the headline I'm reading. I'm cheesing like a dumbass right now, but I can't believe the headline I'm reading, and this may be the start of it all. You know, when I kicked the dirt off my boots of 2019, I was like, 2020 has to be a good year, and it's already killing it with this brand new rumor that has come up. We're going to be dissecting it. It comes from a previous rumor that we had covered on the channel in 2015 and 2016. It seemed to have amounted to nothing because EA had put the brakes on a KOTOR remake, but now those rumors are back. So the link to this article will be in the description down below. Do read it for yourself. I'll be covering every bit of it here today, but be sure to give the rumor source itself a click. It does seem trustworthy, and I'll get into why exactly that is the case. So the article is titled Knights of the Old Republic Remake Might Be Back in the Cards Exclusive. Like I said, back in 2015, we had covered an article titled Knights of the Old Republic HD Remake coming in 2016. That article had stated this, but I keep hearing this bit of info, and where there's smoke, there's typically fire of some kind, though even these plans can change. So he was honest and upfront in his original write-up. I've heard from multiple sources that Knights of the Old Republic is getting an update for the current generation consoles. And I'm not talking about a resolution remaster, an actual upgrade to the game to make it enjoyable for both new and returning gamers. Better yet, I'm hearing it'll be coming sooner than you think. The quote was, supposedly we may hear an announcement Q4 of 2015 for a possible Q3/Q4 2016 release. So with that bit of info there, knowing that it seemed to be that close to being ready to enter a marketing cycle for release, like the game was practically there, means that there was a lot of headway originally on this project, which makes it plausible that we could see this sooner rather than later. Now that you have some of the backstory for those of you who maybe didn't follow the original rumor, let's talk exactly about the new rumor and what that entails. Unexpectedly, I heard an update from two independent sources, different from the ones that had given me prior information and helped me confirm Ewan McGregor's scoop from last year. This came out of the blue and caught me by surprise, which is the main reason I'm updating it now. So the reason I believe this is because I had made a video about how I believe KOTOR is coming back sooner than we think just a couple weeks ago. So great timing on this news piece, by the way. Go check that video out, linked in the description down below. But after the creation of that video, I was contacted by multiple sources that I can personally say I trust, and they told me that something KOTOR was happening. They didn't specify if it was a remake, a remaster, a reimagining, a sequel. They didn't go through any of that, just essentially reassuring me that my predictions were not off, that something KOTOR was coming. Of course, I do want to make sure I mention before we go any further into this video, this still very much is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. Please, 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 please take it with a grain of salt, right? Because despite my hype, despite my excitement at the very smell of KOTOR, we do need to make sure we are aware it is a rumor. This project can fall apart, it can go into stasis just like it did in the past. Do keep that in mind as we move forward. So personally, with that information in mind, I trust it. We've been hearing murmurs about this for a while. The writing sort of has been on the wall, like I covered in my video that I have linked down below. We've seen Revan and KOTOR slowly crawl into the canon. So that's something to be totally aware of, that this shouldn't come as a surprise if you've sort of been reading between the lines. The Star Wars Visual Dictionary showed a lot of that between the Jedi Crusader pendant that Luke Skywalker is wearing, and of course, Revan being acknowledged in one of the Sith Legion as one of the leading Sith Lords. Both those facts show that they're trying to inch KOTOR back into the canon, and obviously a game would accompany that. Let's continue reading on. According to one, the previously mentioned Knights of the Old Republic remake is back in development. My other source added to that saying they felt it wasn't so much as a remake, but a quote sequel, end quote, of sorts. It would be a Knights of the Old Republic project that would integrate elements from the first two games in order to bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon. Not necessarily a remake so much as a reimagining. Now, I want to go all in on what I feel about that at the end of this video. You guys know how near and dear this series is to my heart, and so I shiver a little bit at the thought of any changes. But like I said, let's wrap up this article and then we'll get into my thoughts on that. Considering the wealth of material from KOTOR that's already been reintroduced into the canon, this doesn't seem like a big stretch to make it work. Unfortunately, that's all the details I have right now on this project, so it seems like the original remake has made a return in some form and being retooled. He also adds on, I've heard EA has a bunch of Star Wars projects in various stages of work at this point, from Jedi Fallen Order sequels to Project Luminous tie-in to something on the Switch. There's a lot going on. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like EA has found their groove with the Star Wars license. I mean, it's getting a little late now. It's a 10-year deal and they're sort of nearing the end of it. Unfortunately, I don't know about the timing of any of these, but I'm digging and hoping to have fresh updates soon. E3 could bring some big reveals, but there's also a chance that they do have their own Star Wars event reveal for some of the stuff they're working on. Okay, so in the terms of reveals, I feel like, for example, KOTOR, because we have the rumor of the movie, I feel the announcement of the movie and the game are going to probably synchronize. I feel like that would make the most sense because Disney obviously has to be involved in, sadly, all of these decisions. So personally, that's what I think in the terms of reveal timing, but it's exciting to see that there's a lot of Star Wars projects underway. After Jedi Fallen Order, I feel like that was a nice return to form of what we really grew up with in those early 2000s of Star Wars games, and I'd love to see more of that because certainly EA, while they're awful, own some pretty talented developers, and even those developers, they've made their own mistakes. BioWare, DICE, we know, but I'm just saying there is talent there is potential there, and so to see that they may have hit their groove is a little exciting. But let's talk about the idea of not a remake of, say, the original Knights of the Old Republic, but a reimagining of KOTOR, combining elements from the first two games. One question I get a lot as someone who talks a lot about KOTOR year in, year out is, would I want to see the combat system change? And personally, as a purist, as a traditionalist, whatever you want to call it, I would not want to see that combat system change. But if you guys remember, even my oldest critique of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, where I talked about why you should play the game, I did mention that the combat is probably the most stale, old-feeling part of the entire title. So while I like it, I love the D&D format of it, I like building my character, I love the feats, the skills, I think that there could be a little bit of retooling that wouldn't hurt it, because ultimately, while I think it is the best game series ever made, I can be realistic and say, this could be a little better. For example, the skill system. The skill system in KOTOR is solid because it lets you round out your character, but ultimately, for each different character in my party, I just have them focus on the ones that my main character can't do. So for example, I'll be good at demolitions, awareness, treat injury, and then I'll have Atten be good at something along the lines of security, computer skill. You get the point, right? So I didn't have that motivation to build my character, trying to be good at all those things, because I could just have a party member fill that out. And we see RPGs do that nowadays. So little retoolings like that, changing the gameplay to more of an action-oriented system, if they took the route of like what Dragon Age Inquisition did, where Dragon Age Inquisition was a nice hybrid of Dragon Age 1 Origins and Dragon Age 2, I really like that combat. I don't like Inquisition whatsoever. You guys know that. I've said it a million times. But I personally would not mind seeing that style of combat make its way into KOTOR, because it's a nice mix where you can add strategy elements while still being exciting with action. But I don't want that to come at the sacrifice of role-playing elements and character builds. I think that's far more valuable, and why KOTOR is so highly regarded, because it is a true role-playing game. Like, you make significant choices in the story and significant choices with your character on how to build them out. Ultimately, at the end of the game, you always have Master Critical Strike, Master Flurry, Master Power Attack, right? Those things are always there. So I would like to see them build out on that. If they're going to reimagine it in that way, sure, because ultimately this game was limited by tech when you think about it. I'm sure that if this game was made nowadays, we would see more skills, more options for the character. If they retain all of that and just build out a little bit more without overall jeopardizing the entire vision of the gameplay, I don't think I'd be against that. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about the story. If they lay a finger on the story, I mean, like, change one morsel of the main story of KOTOR 1, I'll be so upset. Okay, maybe I'm being a little extreme. Maybe I'm being a little extreme, right? But I'm just saying, I think the way the story was told, how they paced things, was just right. Just right even now. I think they have a wonderful Star Wars story. It does not need to change, especially when you get to the final planet. There's some very significant decisions you can make with your party. The way it just quickly goes from 0 to 100, despite being an intense, exciting, curious adventure the whole way. I just hope they don't change that. That's the one part of the reimagining that worries me as a diehard fan, because I personally think that doesn't need to be touched up. Part of the reason people like myself and many others out there want to see KOTOR back is because the original was so good. If you want to change up the gameplay, how the levels are designed, all that stuff, because those are connected, go for it, right? I'm very open-minded to that. I think the story doesn't need to be changed. Now, I won't get into spoilers. I'm just saying there is a significant twist. I do admit that I think the KOTOR 1 twist you kind of can see coming nowadays with the way stories have progressed and have been told. But back then, when game stories weren't that like, whoa, what kind of thing, that was a really significant moment in gaming history. So to kind of see that maybe get changed would be a little disappointing. I'm trying to use a little bit of foresight here and imagine myself like a couple months from launch if they said they did change parts of the story. And as a person who's a huge fan of other series like Fallout before 76 or Dragon Ball, when I see a company announce that they may be tweaking little things with the story, I normally get excited. So I think my fanboyism is getting a little bit in the way of being accepting of tweaks. So in this case, I'm going to try to remain open-minded, but I do hope that if they're going to change anything, just touch up the gameplay, the level design. You want to make it look better, of course. I would expect that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the article from Cinelinx. Those are my thoughts. I'm sure that maybe Jason Schreier of Kotaku or someone else will end up commenting on this. I believe this story is not done. I think it will continue to build. So we'll see in due time. But these are my immediate thoughts, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see this game probably coming back. It's well overdue. That and Fallout 3/New Vegas are so stinking overdue, it's disgusting. And you guys know that. I said it 1,000,001 times, so I'm gonna cut it here, pass it off to you. What do you guys think about KOTOR coming back? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.